Hi. Ethiopians, slaveholders, slave traders, and eunuch makers. And Nubian, African, Islamic, sexual slavery through female genital mutilation. My name is Lynn Schnebley, and I am the ambassador for Heaven's creating and protecting goddesses and archangels over life. I am looking at the recent, ancient, and current uses of slavery in Africa, as well as female genital mutilation as a means of binding and slavery, which was first developed in Nubia and in parts of Africa, and then spread its way throughout the rest of Africa and through the Islamic cultures. Not all Islamic cultures, but most Islamic cultures, right? And how it was widely practiced even in Ethiopia. Female genital mutilation is slavery, period. I mean, most women have been slaves. Most women have not been emancipated from their families or from their husbands, and they've been held as property. There you go. But let's talk about slavery in general still going on in Africa. And what concerns me is that in the last 20 years or so, and I'm not just blaming the Africans on this, because the United States, the international European world, not so much the Chinese, but Europe, France, England, but especially the English. And remember, I'm also representing the English here with dual citizenship in Canada and history back there to Elizabeth I. I'm saying that this behavior is incorrect, and if I knew the things that I knew about the Bible and about science, there is no way that I would be supporting any of these men and what they've done. That's plain and simple. The current information that's out there means I would have shut all this down a long time ago. Now, and besides, Elizabeth I and Isabella never would have agreed to what these men did after their deaths. So this is kind of a moot issue. We don't agree with what you did. There you go. Let's talk about the Ethiopian slave trade for a moment. They didn't outlaw it until the mid-1940s. We're going to go in and take a peek at this, because we had Barack Obama, who is Kenyan, and quite possibly he had to give up his American citizenship and is in Indonesia. And of course, they have female genital mutilation going on there like crazy in both places, and they're also Islamic. But it's not American. He's never been a U.S. former slave. He has no claim to this whatsoever. And then we have the Ethiopian crown prince, who in 2017 married an American woman and has been in this country as a philanthropist, gathering up all these Lion of Judah movement. Please take out the 10 commandments that are supposedly in Ethiopia. Why don't you march it around the continent and see if you can save people? Because it doesn't exist? Okay, that's like Saint Agatha's fingernail hanging out in the Vatican someplace. Let's get back to this other thing. I'm sorry, I digressed. They're all here drumming up this part of Black Lives Matter and their failures in their country, in their leadership. And it's all about how they failed and how they're blaming this country that only got 6%. The United States only got about 6% of the African American slaves. The African slaves that came over here. So how did we become the major problem in the world with slavery when it should have been the Portuguese or just the British or the French? And so what's going on here? And secondly, why didn't they warn you about the red dragon and the dragon and how they're exterminating it? It's because they're all in with the elite white people, and they're really against the average person. So when we look at how I wanted to bring in the Union of North America, or rather more like I don't even think Commonwealth, and I've used that term. I don't even think that's a good word. I think some sort of political entity that would look after what's happening in all of North and Central America, that would link us up exclusively, similar to what they did in Europe. Because if we can't do it, and we are only really working with 2 major languages, well, then nobody can. And we should be able to do this. But what happened is that when Barack Obama, when my case landed on his desk, it excluded Africa and all those other things. That didn't work for him. So let's go in and take a look at slavery in Ethiopia. Modern slavery in Ethiopia. And by the way, the Nigerians didn't outlaw slavery until when? The 1960s. They were still involved formally in the slave trade, and then they were still slaving underneath. So when we, and selling them all around the world. So this isn't, you know, you've got to be really careful when you start pointing fingers at just white people, because nobody has enslaved more black people than black people. Okay, let's go in and take a look at what we have here. Out of me, the female, case of female, we're just going to look at female circumcision, and this is a form of bonding. It was brought into Egypt, they believe, by the Nubian pharaoh. That's right. Okay, it was called binding, and it's a form of slavery. Oh, you say, oh, well, that's our cultural right. Hey, folks, your cultural right is to remove women's abilities, put them at horrible risk, possibly kill them while you're doing this, or as part of the consequences of it, slitting them with knives on the day they get married. I realize that not everyone does it to that extent. Now they have nurses doing it in Kenya, because it's, you know, like, you can't figure out something better to do with your medical profession than that. Really? By the way, it was a Haitian nurse who gave me that shot, yeah. And my mother thinks that the person was African American. Well, we don't know, but they weren't white people that gave me those shots with that. That has caused the inflammation all throughout my arm and in the back, and nobody will. All right, so you're not that peaceful, and you enslave your own people. Oh, in Haiti, the lighter black people enslaved the darker black people. Yeah, I mean, it's priceless. It's just priceless what you do. Okay, let's come out of here. It's like in the United States, the lighter black people make fun of the darker black people. Beautiful. Okay. So there's this whole thing, and it really started, well, in Egypt, it started with the Nubians. Let's come out of here. Right. Now, let's take a look at our Prince Ethiopian. And why is he here? What kind of philanthropist? No, he's not really a philanthropist. He's part of the whole Great Africa Rising thing. Explaining Ethiopia's long history. Now, this is a beautiful, beautiful quote. Let me see if I can get in here and do this. The huge proportion of the population was considered property of their owners and deprived of any form of property ownership. Slavery was so rife that Abja Jafar, the second king of Jimma, an independent kingdom of Ethiopia, was a slave-based economy, exchanged 2 slaves for 2 dogs, and paid his dentist 5 slaves for treatment. Okay. All righty. This is great. The traditional legal code in Ethiopia officially enshrines slavery in the structure of Ethiopian society. In the early 20th century, Ethiopia had 2 and 4 million slaves out of a total population of about 11 million people. Did you read that? Black on black, mostly black on black. Did you? Okay. Just want to make sure. Let's come back here. Oh, we did that already. Slavery and the slave trade in Ethiopia. Oh, dear, 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 dear. Hold on. Let's come back here. in the 19th and early 20th century derived wealth from slavery and slave trade, increasing their resilience? Oh, yes. So when did they abolish it? Abolition efforts in 1942? Oh, please leave the United States and stop drumming up problems in Jamaica and all these other areas. Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia. Pick yourselves up and go, please. We have enough problems and we don't need you as part of the Black Lives Matter. Oh, excuse me. Please leave. We do not need you as part of Black Lives Matter. You have nothing to do with the American slavery program. You are part of the problem, and we need the people from that area to be quiet, pick up, and leave. Don't be here. You're not part of the solution. You're just prolonging a problem. And our African American people who were actually slaves don't deserve you. They don't deserve, we don't deserve you. We don't deserve you. Nobody deserves you. Please leave as soon as possible. And don't link yourselves up to the Native Americans. Don't. Leave. Thank you. Leave. Leave. Leave.